Imagine sitting at a Roman banquet, candles flickering, golden goblets raised high, laughter echoing off marble walls. The emperor himself reclines at the head of the table, wrapped in silk and pride. He lifts his cup of wine, yet within that ruby-red liquid lies death itself. Not the blade of an assassin, not the thrust of a dagger, but a drop of something invisible, tasteless, and far more terrifying. This was the weapon of Rome's most secretive killers, men and women who did not need swords to strike down generals, senators, and even emperors. Their tools were powders, tinctures, and poisons so subtle that entire dynasties could vanish overnight without a single drop of blood spilled. And behind these invisible murders, history whispers of an organization so shadowy, so feared, that it came to be called Rome's Poison Syndicate. Who were they? How did they operate? And how many of Rome's rulers fell not to rebellion or the sword, but to the silent sting of their toxins? The art of poison is older than Rome itself. Ancient Assyria, Persia, and Greece all experimented with deadly plants and minerals. But in Rome, the practice grew into something darker, a weapon of politics. The roots of the poison trade in Rome can be traced back to the 3rd century BCE, during the Republic. In 331 BCE, an outbreak of mysterious deaths swept through the city. Senators, generals, and nobles fell ill in waves. Rumors spread of a mass poisoning conspiracy, and soon, nearly 170 Roman women were accused of concocting deadly brews. Livy, the Roman historian, tells us that these women gathered secretly, mixing herbs, minerals, and venoms under the guise of religious rituals. Whether guilty or scapegoats, they were executed. Yet the panic revealed something chilling. Rome had discovered that poison could kill more efficiently than armies. It could change the balance of power without raising an alarm. From that moment on, the seed was planted. Poisons were not just medicine gone wrong. They were a political weapon. As Rome expanded across the Mediterranean, it encountered new toxins: hemlock from Greece, aconite from the mountains, and the dreaded mad honey of the Black Sea, harvested from bees that fed on poisonous flowers. Eastern kingdoms introduced arsenic, and Egypt brought knowledge of snake venoms. Rome absorbed them all, cataloged them, and turned them into an arsenal. By the time of the emperors, the art of poison had become a silent war, a hidden battleground where meals, wines, and perfumes could turn fatal.
Out of this hidden culture emerged whispers of a loose network: poison makers, sellers, and assassins who could be hired by Rome's elite. Some called them the Beneficia, others the Syndicate of Shadows. The most infamous figure tied to this network was a woman named Locusta. She lived during the reign of Emperor Claudius in the 1st century CE, and her reputation as a poisoner was unmatched. Locusta was not a back-alley witch. She was a professional, trained in the properties of herbs and minerals, capable of crafting toxins that acted instantly or slowly, depending on her client's needs. When the ambitious Agrippina the Younger sought to place her son Nero on the throne, it was Locusta she turned to. The story goes that Locusta supplied the poison that killed Emperor Claudius, slipped into his favorite dish of mushrooms. The emperor convulsed, choked, and died, clearing the path for Nero's rise. Nero, grateful for Locusta's deadly precision, rewarded her with riches, land, and even students to whom she could teach her craft. Imagine that! Rome, the empire of legions and gladiators, sponsoring an academy of poison. Locusta's hand was suspected in multiple deaths, from rivals of Nero to inconvenient generals. She became a symbol of how normalized assassination by poison had become in Roman politics. Swords and legions were for the battlefield. Power in Rome was now determined by goblets and potions.
But Locusta was only the most famous. The syndicate's reach extended far deeper. Senators accused rivals of using hired poisoners. Wives, desperate for power or freedom, turned to veneficae, female poison makers, to dispatch unwanted husbands. The poison trade thrived in the shadows, fueled by greed, vengeance, and ambition. At its height, the Poison Syndicate was Rome's unspoken terror. To the ordinary citizen, it was a ghost story whispered at night. To the powerful, it was a weapon of survival. Imagine walking into the Senate chamber, knowing that your rival might not hire an assassin with a dagger, but instead slip something into your wine. Imagine dining with friends, knowing one wrong sip could end your lineage. In Rome, the cup became deadlier than the sword. The fear grew so strong that emperors employed official tasters, men who sampled their meals before they ate. Silver and ivory spoons were said to detect toxins. Some emperors, like Mithridates of Pontus, Rome's great enemy, went so far as to consume small doses of poison daily, building up immunity in a practice later called Mithridatism. The paranoia reached its height under Nero and his successors. Poison trials became public spectacles. Accused poisoners were paraded, tortured, and executed, yet the syndicate endured. Like the Hydra, cut off one head, and two more would appear.
But like all weapons, poison eventually lost its edge. As Rome's crisis deepened in the later empire, chaos on the battlefield overshadowed intrigue at the table. Civil wars, barbarian invasions, and plagues claimed more rulers than subtle toxins. Locusta herself met a brutal end. After Nero's fall in 68 CE, she was executed by the new emperor Galba, who sought to purge Rome of Nero's corrupt legacy. Her academy of poison was dismantled, and Rome tried to wash its hands of the syndicate's shadowy influence. Yet poison never truly disappeared. It slipped back into the cracks of history, resurfacing in the Byzantine court, the Renaissance, and even modern espionage. Rome had not ended the story. It had merely written the first chapter. The Poison Syndicate of Rome leaves behind a haunting question. How much of history was decided not by battles, but by powders and potions? How many emperors died not because of rebellion, but because of a sip too many? Today, we still see echoes. The concept of secret assassination by invisible means survives in spycraft and intelligence warfare. From Cold War agents to modern political scandals involving toxins like polonium or Novichok, the art of invisible killing continues. In popular culture, the image of the poisoned goblet appears again and again in Shakespeare's tragedies, in fantasy epics like Game of Thrones, and in countless thrillers. We may not see Locusta's name, but her shadow lingers. And perhaps the most chilling legacy of all,
the reminder that power rarely falls in glorious battle. More often, it dies quietly, with a cup raised in trust and lowered in silence. Rome's Poison Syndicate remains one of history's most unsettling mysteries, an invisible hand that shaped emperors, toppled dynasties, and rewrote history with venom instead of steel. Their existence reminds us that in the game of power, the deadliest weapons are often the ones you cannot see. So the next time you picture Rome, don't just imagine gladiators in the arena or legions on the march. Imagine the banquet table, the gleaming goblet, and the secret assassin who needed no blade. If you enjoyed this journey into the shadows of Roman history, make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more hidden stories of the ancient world. And tell me in the comments, do you think poison killed more emperors than daggers ever did?